The intention of this video is to get you started on the GC-FID we have, which is an Agilent 8890 GC-FID, and it's running the Mass Hunter software, which is usually for GCMS, but we're running it on the GC-FID. Before you get going, you want to make sure that the tanks that the GC-FID needs to run have plenty of gas. Walk over to these tanks and look at the metal pieces attached to them called regulators. The regulators each have 2 dials. You want to look at the one that's kind of on the right here, the one with the bigger numbers. So here we'll just look at the nitrogen. This is the nitrogen tank that's feeding the FID. And if we look at the one on the right with the bigger numbers, we see that that guy's like 2,600 PSI. Plenty of gas, plenty of nitrogen. We come over to this next tank. That guy's well over 2,000, plenty of gas. Come over to the next tank. That guy is somewhere around 1,600 PSI, still plenty of gas. Now we come over to this guy. This guy is below 500. You can probably still run, but you need to notify me and or the mentors because we need to change out this gas. In fact, this is the air tank, and that's the one that runs out most often. So always check the pressures. Then when you're ready, you can walk up to the instrument and put your samples in. The samples load up by these numbers here, where 1 is on the bottom and it goes 1 to 10 and restarts at 11. When you've got your samples loaded up, you want to go to the software. It should be online. It should say, it should be green or blue or red and have a bunch of numbers down there and have either idle ready or something like running or something like that going. Now to get started, we're not going to do a method. We're just going to go ahead and use the method that I'm giving you to start. And we're going to use that as the basis for what's called a sequence. And a sequence is a series of runs that you're going to program in. You should have a folder on your name under the project checkout. So here I've got the Kenyan folder. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to provide you, me and the mentor are going to provide you with a sequence to get you started. Just something to start with. So load that sequence, and then you're going to need to click on Edit Sequence. So let's zoom in here on the bottom and see all the different things here. The first thing you need to program in the sequence is the name of the data file. The name of the data file that you are going to give to this thing. There's something else over there that's a little bit confusing called name. That's for your own edification. This is data file. Do not put special characters in this. So an underscore is okay, a dash is okay. No periods, no slashes, no question marks, no, just letters, numbers, underscore, dash, okay? Give the data file a name. And then under here over name, it's a little bit redundant, but it's actually different. This is a name that if you want, you can put characters into. That's gonna appear at the top when you pull up the data, but it doesn't affect the data file, okay? There's also a comment thing over here. And you can write whatever text you want in that comment, but you don't need to put anything there. Those things stay with the file, but they're not the actual name of the file. When you make your data file name, by the way, I would always put your initials at the end of the data file name. That'll prevent a lot of problems. The next thing is the path, and that is the location where the data file will go, okay? You're gonna pick the folder that is your name. You want your data to go into your folder. So you want that data file to go in your folder. So make that the data path. And then the vial position. I have the blank that I'm running in vial position 1. You saw that in the tray, so I'm going to put it there. But if it's 11 or 12 or whatever, you need to put it there. All right. And then the method path. This is where your method's located. Again, this path should just be your folder, the one with your name on it. And then you're going to pick the specific method file that is within that folder, that path that you just chose for the method path. And you should have a nice starter method or an example method in here that I'll provide with you. It'll probably have your name there. For type and for this sampler, make sure it's just sample and it's the ALS for the sample. Those should always be that. When you need to add lines, you can click on this new sample button and you can add 1 sample, 5 samples, whatever. And then, so I called my blank. I'm running my blank for the quinine. So to keep that in mind, I called it quinine blank. Of course, I put my initials. The data path here should be the same. And I'll show you how to do that easily in a second. You can highlight on these things, and there's a button called Fill Down, and if you click on that, it'll just fill in whatever was above it. I don't want that to be called a blank in terms of the name, so I'm just going to change that to the quinine standard to be explicit. It is not in position 1, so I put in the vial position, which is 4. It's in slot 4 there. The method is the same. The method path is the same, so I can leave those. Okay. I don't want to comment that this is a blank, so I'm going to change this to be a little bit more descriptive. But you don't have to comment. You don't have to use any of that. Most important thing is the data file, what name you're giving the data file, and that you should probably have initials and it's a good file name. So I've got my sequence all set up. I need to save it. I don't want to overwrite my previous sequence, so I'm going to say save sequence as. And then I'm going to give this thing a new name that's kind of descriptive. I'm running a quinine blank and quinine, so I'm going to call this something to do with that. So once that's all nice and saved, I'm ready to go. And I click on Run Sequence. Okay, and you can just click through on this screen and just say, yeah, I want you to run the sequence. Okay, when you do this, it's going to start loading into the software. And then you'll see that there's some colors changing here and some things going on. If you're able to run your sequence, if you're the person running your sequence, you want to stick around and wait and verify that it actually injects. It takes the instrument a few minutes to get up and running, get the temperatures going, and to check everything, and you can kind of watch it go through that. Do not click. I didn't click no or ignore that or override. Don't click override on anything. And then once it gets done with its pre-run and it's ready to go, you should hear the turret and the robot going. And what it's going to do first is check its position. Then it's going to grab your sample. That's my blank in position 1. It's going to deposit it into the turret. Okay. And then it's going to wash itself. You want to make sure that where it's spun around to there, that is solvent wash A. You want to make sure that there's actually solvent in there. You'll see carryover and have problems if there's nothing in solvent wash A. Okay. After it washes itself, it's going to make sure that it coats the syringe nicely with your sample. You can actually program this in the method, how you want it to wash and how you want it to inject and all this stuff, but generally don't mess with it unless you're having a lot of problem with carryover while using reasonable quantities of things. Okay, and then when it's ready, here comes a really important part. It's going to inject. And when it injects, look at the time. If you look at the time on the white screen to the right, it was at 0, and right when it injected, it started running. So it's washing itself afterwards, it's going to put things home, but the GC is now running. It started monitoring the time, and it's going to take care of everything. You can make a giant sequence, and the robot will run it all for you. If you program in anything wrong with the sequence or the method, though, the robot's not going to figure that out, and it's gonna hang up. It's just going to kind of sit there and do nothing.